The parable of the Good Samaritan is one of the most powerful lessons Jesus taught about love, kindness, and compassion. This story, found in the Gospel of Luke, tells us how a man in need was helped not by those expected to aid him, but by a stranger from an unlikely place. It is a story that challenges our understanding of who our neighbor truly is. Let us journey back in time and witness this remarkable story unfold, imagining ourselves in the crowd as Jesus shares his wisdom with the people gathered around him. One day, Jesus was teaching a group of people in a bustling marketplace. The air was filled with the scent of fresh bread and the sound of merchants calling out their wares. Children ran between the stalls, laughing, while elders sat under the shade of trees, listening intently. Among the crowd was an expert in the law, a man of status and knowledge who stood up to test Jesus. He had heard of Jesus' teachings and wanted to see if he truly understood the law of Moses. This man, curious yet skeptical, wanted to know what it truly meant to inherit eternal life. The teacher cleared his throat and, in a confident voice, asked, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus, as was his way, did not answer directly. Instead, he responded with a question of his own. "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" His voice was calm, yet firm, drawing the attention of everyone around him. The teacher took a deep breath and replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." Jesus nodded, a gentle smile forming on his lips. "You have answered correctly," he said. "Do this, and you will live." But the teacher was not satisfied. He wanted to test Jesus further, so he asked, "And who is my neighbor?" In those days, many believed that their neighbor only included their own people, those who shared their culture, beliefs, and way of life. The teacher wanted to see if Jesus agreed or if he had a different understanding. Jesus, knowing the intent behind the question, began to tell a parable, a story that would change the way people thought about love and kindness forever. There was a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. This road was known to be treacherous, filled with steep passes and rocky paths where robbers often hid, waiting for unsuspecting travelers. The journey was long and tiring, with the heat of the day beating down on those who dared to walk the road alone. Suddenly, from behind the rocks, a group of robbers sprang forward. Before the man could react, they seized him, pulling him to the ground. They beat him mercilessly, taking all his possessions, his money, his clothes, even his shoes. The traveler cried out, but no one was there to hear him. The robbers, satisfied with their spoils, fled into the wilderness, leaving him bruised and bleeding, half dead on the roadside. After some time, a priest happened to be traveling down the same road. He was dressed in fine robes, his steps deliberate and dignified. He saw the injured man lying in the dust, his wounds deep and his breath shallow. But instead of stopping, the priest hesitated, then quickly passed by on the other side of the road. Perhaps he feared becoming unclean by touching a possibly dead man, or maybe he simply did not want to get involved. Not long after, a Levite, a respected religious official, came walking down the same road. He, too, saw the man lying there, his face bruised and his body barely moving. The Levite paused for a moment, considering the scene before him. But then, shaking his head, he stepped to the other side of the road and continued on his way, unwilling to help. At last, a Samaritan traveler came down the road. Unlike the priest and the Levite, the Samaritans were not highly regarded by the Jewish people. Yet, as he approached the wounded man, his heart was filled with compassion. He saw the man's injuries and knew he could not leave him to suffer. Kneeling beside him, he gently cleaned the wounds and bandaged them with strips of cloth. The Samaritan did not stop there. Lifting the wounded man onto his donkey, he took him to an inn, where he cared for him through the night. The next morning, he gave the innkeeper money and said, "Take care of him. Whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I return." As Jesus finished his story, he turned to the teacher of the law and asked, "Which of these three do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of robbers?" The teacher, understanding the lesson, replied, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus smiled and said, "Go and do likewise." The parable of the Good Samaritan is more than just a story. It is a call to action. It reminds us that our neighbor is not defined by race, status, or background, but by love and kindness. Jesus challenges us all to open our hearts, to care for those in need, and to be a light in the world. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of Jesus's most powerful teachings. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. May we all strive to love our neighbors as ourselves.